If you spend time in forums or on YouTube, you've probably seen the debate. Back button focus is dead, or back button focus is the only way real pros shoot. These days it's either dismissed as being outdated or treated like a religion. But the truth? Back button focus is still very relevant in 2026 for wildlife photography, but probably not for the reasons most people think. And if you're still using back button focus the same way you did back in the DSLR days, you're likely limiting what your mirrorless camera can actually do. So today I want to break it all down, not just what back button focus is, but how it's evolved and exactly how I use the AF on to be faster, more precise and less distracted on the field. If you're new here, I'm Paolo Sartori. I've spent the last 15 years photographing wildlife across Africa, Europe and South America, and here on this channel I share field-tested techniques that help you get better photos without getting lost in the hype. If that sounds like something you're working toward, hit subscribe and let's get into it. To start things off, what is back button focus? Originally, it just meant removing autofocus from the shutter button. You would assign the focus function to the rear AF on button here that is present in almost any camera today. When you press the shutter, it just takes a photo whether you're in focus or not. And whenever you press this, you trigger the autofocus. The idea originally was to separate these two things, focusing and taking the shot, so that you have more control. It made a lot of sense back in the day, especially for fast-moving subjects and action. And for years it became kind of a gold standard for wildlife photographers. Back then, DSLR autofocus systems were kind of dumb compared to what we have today. There was no subject detection, no eye tracking, no intelligent algorithms deciding what to follow, and you just had to manually control everything. So the shutter button, half pressed, could easily ruin a shot by refocusing at the wrong time. In this case, back button focus gave you consistency, control, and it wasn't about being advanced. It was really a workaround to make the most of the tools you had. It was a way to overcome the limitation of that old type of technology. Now we have subject detection for animals, birds, eyes. We have autofocus systems that cover the full frame and not anymore just the central part. We have crazy fast tracking, AI-powered response from cameras. The modern AF systems are designed to work continuously. They don't wait for you to tell them what to focus on. They expect to track at all time. So if you're using the classic back button focus style, always holding down the AF on button, you're actually working against this system. It slows you down, it increases the cognitive load, and in dynamic situations like wildlife, it can cause you to miss the shot entirely. This is because, again, mirrorless cameras are designed to track by default, not to wait for your instructions. So let me show you how I use it now. This is the setup I use every day in the field. I set the shutter button to trigger autofocus in servo or AFC mode with subject tracking on, and I let the camera handle the focus while I compose the images. And this is my default. I don't overthink it, I just trust the camera to do its job. And in maybe 90% of the situations, this works perfectly. It's fast, it's reactive, and it let me stay focused on the subject and on the story. And before you say it, yes, this isn't an R3, it has an insanely good autofocus, but the same thing applies to even the basic cameras. Maybe the autofocus speed will not be the same, but the principle will be. Now, here is the key insight and where things get powerful. I set the AF on button to a completely different autofocus function. I set it to AF mode in one shot or single AF with a single point or a spot to focus on. This way, when I press the AF on, it overrides the shutter buttons tracking function, and it gives me full control over where to place the focus manually. This is what I use when tracking gets confused, like through tall grass or behind branches or in cluttered environments. So to recap, shutter button, full tracking, servo, subject detection, I use it 90% of the time. AF on, it's like a precision override whenever I need to be surgical. AF on is no longer my main focus button, it's like a precision tool. And it's one of the most powerful ways I found to stay efficient and in control while letting the camera do the heavy lifting. If you want the full step-by-step setup tutorial for this, you can find it in this video. But before, I will show you exactly when and why this setup makes all the difference in the field. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're photographing a leopard moving through tall grass. The tracking system is locking onto random blades of grass in front of the subject. In the old workflow, you would have to stop shooting, dive into the camera menu, switch from servo to one shot, change your focus area, reacquire focus. By the time you're ready, the moment is gone. With this setup, you keep shooting, you just press AF on, you move the focus point where you want it to be, let's say on the eye of your subject, and when you release the AF on, it will instantly go back to full servo tracking. Without menu diving, without mental interruption, just all the control when you need it. In wildlife photography, speed and mental clarity is everything, because the scene is constantly changing, and if your system creates hesitation, you're going to miss shots. Now, is this setup for everyone? If you're shooting wildlife, birds, sports, anything where the subject moves unpredictably, this setup will absolutely help. If you shoot mostly landscapes, portraits or studio work, it's less critical. You can work slower and traditional methods work just fine. And this is not about being pro or old school or doing whatever is trendy. It's about being efficient with the tools you have. So here's the key takeaway. Classic back button focus made perfect sense when autofocus system was more limited. Today, the AF systems are smarter, faster and more powerful than ever, and our job is to know when to guide them and when to get out of the way. The best setups do not fight our camera automation. They give you clean, fast way to override it so you can stay present and focused on the moment. And if you want to get even sharper and cleaner results, your next step is to watch this video right here. I cover all the most common technical and creative habits that hold people back and how to fix them with just a few small changes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.